we're moving so fast in the world of AI, and it's hard to keep up, and it's hard to wrap our head around, where we are, where we're going, and how that's going to impact our lives, particularly students, and in education. So the way I approach it is, AI is a co-pilot for students. It's a teammate. It's someone or something that can help you brainstorm, that can push you to think beyond the obvious, that can provide instant feedback on ideas or prototypes, and that can make sure that people are holding up their end of the bargain and ensure collaboration is equitable.
Welcome to today's TomoClub Podcast series. I'm Avinash Bansal, co-founder at TomoClub, and today we have the head of school from the Birch Wathen Lenox School, Bill Kuhn. It's from Upper East Side in New York, and today's topic is very interesting. It's going to be about entrepreneurship and robotics in K-12 education. Thank you so much for taking out time today, Bill, to do this podcast with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Avinash. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So I think when we talk about entrepreneurship, it's usually a very higher ed kind of discussion. Usually students we always hear college dropouts, but we don't have here student dropouts from school for entrepreneurship. And but the good thing is that culture is trickling down from higher ed to K-12. And similarly with robotics, AI, I think schools are trying to do a lot more because that's the need of the hour. And we will definitely dissect this topic in depth to understand the actual nuances of it, because a lot of schools tend to use and throw these terms around. But I think very few are doing some groundbreaking work in which students are actually excited and learning. So before we do that, when I was researching about you, I saw that you have been in finance and you did your MBA from Columbia. And I've done a lot of podcasts. This is the first time a person from Columbia is entering into K-12 who I've been talking. Would love to know what got you into education in the first place, and is that reason still valid after so many years?
Yeah, thank you again for having me on. It's a great question, and I'm glad to be the first one from Columbia to be on your show.
Yeah.
When I graduated Georgetown and I went to Wall Street, I learned a lot. It taught me about how ideas become reality. It taught me about capital allocation. It taught me about risk and execution. And then when I made the switch to education, because I really found my calling standing up in front of teenagers, explaining things to them and developing relationships with them where I become their mentor, their coach, their advisor, really resonated with me. And I found that schools often focus only on knowledge, but I wanted students to build things and solve real problems. And so my MBA mindset pushes me to treat BWL like an incubator, where ideas are tested, where they are iterated, and where they are, eventually launched. And so that's how I got into education and how I treat my role here at BWL, Birch Wathen Lenox.
Love that. I think that's a unique point of view, honestly, when you talk about school as an incubator, which when you hear it, it does sound very obvious, but I think it's the way you put it. So do you think that vision that you had for yourself working for students, how is it getting served at the current school? Or I should put it out in the way that is BWL aligning with that vision, and how come?
BWL is aligning with that vision because I have literally launched a program in entrepreneurship for high school students, and we've created one for now middle school students. And in the program, it's a 4-year program for high school students. In the program, they learn so much more. They learn about business. They learn about concepts in businesses. They learn about entrepreneurship, but more than that, they learn about how to start something, what happens when you fail, how to learn from your failure, how to generate ideas, how to think about problems in creative ways. And it's so much more than just the concept of entrepreneurship. It's the underpinnings It's the stuff that you have to become a good entrepreneur that inhabit this kind of education, and it's really something I take a lot of joy and pride in.
No, I agree with that. I tell you personally, I started my entrepreneurial journey when right out of college, and I did my engineering. So at that time, in my final year, there were like literally 12 different startups. Some of them at revenue stage, some of them at idea stage, and over the 1 year, we were the only ones who survived. We were the only ones who were still working on it, and rest 11 of them shut down, or they were either switched to a job, multiple reasons. And so one thing that was a starting early, right out of college, was both a good and bad thing for us. Good thing because I had zero curse of knowledge, so everything I was doing was trying to have no curse. I was like, this is how it's gonna be, let's just do it. But that led to a lot of trial and error, and I learned very slowly. On the other hand, a lot of another journey where students actually go through a career and then they identify a problem and then come back to entrepreneurship. But what I'm trying to explain is that entrepreneurship, I think, is learned by doing. And how do you facilitate that in your entrepreneurial program, apart from all the conceptual knowledge? Yeah.
You are 100% correct. Entrepreneurship and lots of ventures that students encounter are learned by doing, as opposed to just learning about the theory in class. So when you learn by doing, you can approach problems with fewer biases. So some of the lessons that are taken away from these ventures that students create and and eventually build in the incubator, and we have an accelerator part of the program, is they ask, why not? Why not? Why can't I build this? Why can't I pursue this? Why can't, instead of asking the why? So instead of tackling, instead of sort of getting in their own way about having voice of judgment thoughts like I can't do this or I can't do that, they reverse the logic and they say, why not? Why can't I learn something like this? And the best solutions emerge from the unexpected teams or the failed prototypes, and they're working in real world constraints, so budget, time, the needs of the end user, and those become really powerful learning tools for for their edification.
No, love that. I think that's brilliant. Any story that you want to share with us, like anything that surprised you from these student ventures or robotics teams that made you feel that they're actually solving a real world problem?
Sure. I mean, I just some of the ideas that they have created around in their entrepreneurship class has been really remarkable. I mean, they have these. I think there's a data that shows that as in your younger years, you're way more creative.
Yeah.
Have way more sort of creative thoughts running through your brain, and then when you get older, that's when you become sort of more stuck in your ways. And so their ideas are so fascinating. One is, I just discussed this morning with a group of parents. They created a basketball rim, portable rim to put on a rim in the playground, because oftentimes those rims don't have nets attached to them because they've been ripped off.
Right.
And so, that's just one of several that I've been, very impressed with. And they have a unique vantage point because they're high school students, and they sort of have this natural charm and advantage with folks who want to see them succeed and want to ultimately purchase something from them. So they take that that advantage and they use it to their own advantage by by being very passionate and interested in whatever they're working on, which is, can be robotics or entrepreneurship or what have you. I'm just, every day is just a wonderful surprise and delight to come to work and see these passions at work.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Sorry, I mean, I can imagine because I usually do a lot of student facing workshops and like as a part of like my Sunday time. And I love when they are coming up with, and they come up with so fascinating questions, right? And sometimes their ideas can be so bizarre, but there is the beauty because it feels bizarre to me and they feel that's the solution to the world, every problem. And that kind of, I would say, optimism is sometimes lacking in adults, and they are super hopeful, which is so beautiful to witness. Um, but how do you, like, can you walk me through, like, an entrepreneurship class can have so many elements, from theoretical to inviting experts to having internship exposure, to of course doing projects. Can you walk us through an entire year or a semester of how does it look like in working in action?
Yeah, sure. So it really depends on which level you're referring to. So we have a ninth grade, we have level 1, level 2, level 3. Each of them are different. The level 1 is, they're in ninth grade, so their skills, their knowledge base is very raw, or they're very novice. I mean, some of them come in with really great intuitions around marketing and influencer, uh, how brands use influencers to generate sales and generate users and so forth and so on. But they really come in sort of very basic. So we go through a year full of topics like marketing and sales, building a personal brand, creative problem solving, financial management, what customers are thinking, customer-centric thinking, and so forth. And then once they graduate to level 2 and level 3, that's when that's when we transition to an incubator model where they are creating a product or service, and they are continuously iterating on that product or service as the year goes on through, we employ a lean startup model. Mm-hmm. So that means that, I want students to come up with the minimum viable product in order to test and then to iterate on that, on the product, so that they can, continue to improve and continue to push forward their idea. And that's essentially level 2 and level 3, while teaching a bunch of other concepts like, value proposition, competitive analysis, how to conduct market research, et cetera. And then level 4 is the accelerator, where students take their fully formed idea, and with the idea of, really expanding its footprint in the market.
Oh, those are very well structured levels. But who are the instructors? Like, because they need mentorship throughout the year for this. So how do you find those instructors? How do you train them? Do you have a set structured curriculum for the students? How does that look like? So
we have mentors. We have, we include our parent community in the mentorship process. We have this year many mentors that have signed up from our parent body, and they're going to work with the students throughout the year. We also have a number of guest speakers who come in. We also have in-house expertise from faculty who have previously worked in industry. So there's a whole host of folks who are involved in the program that are helping the students push forward their ideas. Okay, I'm pretty sure from Upper East Side you can expect the PTAs to have those kind of
folks, who can actually contribute. Love that.
Sure.
Also, how does it inculcate early on? So I'm assuming is it an elective right now, or is it like something which every kid will go through?
It's a quite popular elective. So we have a tremendous amount of signups.
And how does it happen? Like, do they get these some kind of workshops early on in the middle school? I'm assuming it's from grade 9 to 12. You are trying to do it in now middle school as well. So how does that exposure comes in? Like, do they see those students doing some fantastic workshops, or how do the students get excited early on for this?
Yeah, the students get excited through, we have a middle school elective in entrepreneurship. Students are naturally curious about entrepreneurship, and they naturally sort of have a gravitate towards building ventures, right, and exploring their passions and interests. So it's really about harnessing that, and not necessarily about creating a something that they're going to be that is intentionally appealing. It's like harnessing what they're already interested in.
Also, I would love to understand, like, in the last 2 years, primarily, the every literally every book or every framework which was designed around entrepreneurship over the last 20 years, it has kind of challenged every corner, especially with AI. Like, even in right now, when we talk in my entrepreneurial circle, the funds that was raised from venture capitalists, a major section of it was going for the team or was going towards building product. And even the timelines that you used to have was like 6 months of development, and then they go to market and then they check it out. Right now, because of AI, the product development has literally been commoditized, and like, product is not a barrier anymore. Even the definition of those minimum viable products, that has shifted. Now it's actually market shippable products. So what kind of impact have you seen from the AI aspect impacting your entrepreneurial plan of action, or the education or the delivery among students?
Yeah, it is. We're moving so fast in the world of AI, and it's hard to keep up, and it's hard to wrap our head around, where we are, where we're going, and how that's going to impact our lives, particularly students, and in education. So the way I approach it is, AI is a co-pilot for students. It's a teammate. It's someone or something that can help you brainstorm, that can push you to think beyond the obvious, that can provide instant feedback on ideas or prototypes, and that can make sure that people are holding up their end of the bargain and ensure collaboration is equitable. So it's very fluid, and I'm along with every other educator is struggling to really understand how it's going to impact the future of education. But at the same time, it's an incredibly helpful tool that we should not ignore, that we should students how to use. And while we do that, explore the ethical dilemmas or unintended consequences of its usage. So that's that, as best as I can describe it, that would be our approach to AI.
No, absolutely. It is definitely it's a very fast evolving situation. So every school is trying to figure their strategy around it. So not just entrepreneurship wise, even the teachers using it or the student using it in general. So have you guys like done some professional development around it for the educators? Have you guys bought any tools around AI for the students? What's going on in that aspect?
Yeah, we use a program called Magic School, and Magic School is it's powered by, I think OpenAI or one of the sort of big AI companies and one of the LLMs, and it's very school centric. So the teachers and faculty can build, very cool, school related projects, be able to test and assess students in different ways. So there's an interface that's extremely user friendly and very, applicable to to education. We have professional development on a regular basis. We have a strategy within the school to use AI on a regular basis and use and build on its usage so that by the end of the year it'll be embedded and teachers and students will use it in sophisticated ways. So I would say that we are pro AI usage with some reluctance in education, but as far as schools go, I imagine we are we are a school that believes very deeply in its power and its benefits.
No, I appreciate that stand, but I have a theory, of using of AI in education. I think, which I tell to most of my school leaders that I'm connected to, that a school system should not right now be too invested in any product, whether it's even if it's ChatGPT. Magic School is built on on LLM like OpenAI, but in general, because the entire ecosystem is evolving so quickly, what we need right now is the teachers and the students to develop that acumen, to have that flexibility, to try out different products, whatever works for them.
Yeah.
Whether it is audio, video creation, context creation, ethics, biases, personalization. There's so many things. And for that, you don't even need to pay for any tool. There are so many free tools. If you know how to use them rightly, you don't need to invest in any kind of product. And that's something which I always guide a lot of schools, that you never know that Magic School or other product may get obsolete. And in the meantime, you might get stuck to it because it's just the inertia, right? And so that's usually my look at it. So I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question. So if you could design your own AI co-teacher, for entrepreneurship lab that you guys have, what would you want that AI co-teacher to do? Whether it's coach ideation, give instant feedback to the students, or helping them in marketing, helping them in product development. What would you want that AI co-teacher to do for students?
As I said before, it's a great brainstorming partner, and it pushes students to think beyond sort of the immediate. It refines ideas. It's a entity that you can get clarity on your thoughts and ideas, and really provide instant feedback that a lot of the times is more creative and more refined than what I can provide. So it should really be used as a guide. It should really be used as something to refine and collaborate on ideas, not do the work for you. I continuously emphasize that.
No, absolutely. You can't outsource your work. You have to think of it as a co-creator or a critic with you.
That's right.
Love that. Also, I want to understand that since there's so much happening around AI and in general, so what skills, like your school, how is your school thinking about what skills are relevant for students to be future ready? Because I'm pretty sure those are the questions which a lot of parents must be also asking right now. So how do you define what are the future ready skills for students right now?
Future ready skills right now are I think being able to harness the AI in productive and meaningful ways. Prepare students to be confident builders and creative thinkers, and being able to reflect on how they've done or what kind of product they've put forward. And the foundational skills that we preach and try to ingrain here in students is still, very relevant for future endeavors, right? It's, being able to think critically about their surroundings and an idea, and particularly around controversial issues. They can public speak and can, manage different personalities and be able to run a team effectively. It's, being able to uh, advocate for oneself. It's being able to seek out mentors. There's a whole host of future ready skills that we focus on here that are just, have always been important and will continue to be timeless, even with the, continued improvement and power of artificial intelligence.
I love that. I think that in that, I think you cannot have summarized it better. That overall, and the funny part when I talk to a lot of parents and a lot of teachers about it, in your overall explanation of skills, you didn't bring up the academic element. Like it, of course, it is always there, but it's not anymore about how much like you want to be a valedictorian in math or English. At the end of the day, you need to develop that acumen, which you said about critical thinking and creativity, because it is getting much more readily available in terms of those skills, right? Whether you want to go in the finance field, whether you want to go in design, marketing, legal, medical, you will have AI assistants working all around you. It's all about how you're going to be working with them and have your individuality, have your intelligence intact. So, love
Right.
that.
And be able to strengthen that intelligence muscle with the assistance and not the sort of outsourcing.
Just last thing that I want to understand about the entrepreneurship and robotics lab that you have created. Uh, what does the end goal look like? Like, how do you see that? How do you measure the impact that, it's actually, of course, sign up interest is definitely one of the important metrics of showing the interest. How do you measure the output in terms of like after level 3, the students are actually doing things on ground and, improving their lives?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I constantly contemplate and think about these kinds of questions, because the future feels like it's moving. We're moving so quickly, particularly with the advent of AI. I continuing to build this incubator in entrepreneurship where students can develop and really engage in cross-disciplinary work between and the boundaries between disciplines, academics, and entrepreneurship will eventually dissolve, or they are dissolving, where projects in school will integrate. We're a traditional school, and so we take a lot of pride in teaching in teaching students the fundamentals and giving them a good foundation with literacy and numeracy. But as they get older, projects are going to integrate all sorts of different skills and disciplines: design, coding, ethics, business. And so students will eventually they'll graduate with something like a portfolio of solutions that they've come up with on top of grades. And we're already seeing a lot of that now, where students are, create beyond their studies in school, they're integrating these really awesome creative projects that compete on a national, international scale, and we're just going to see more and more as AI and as I as you put it in the beginning, the pushing downward of skills, projects, the kind of preparation that you would have seen only in college, many years ago.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing more and more at the younger levels, and that's going to continue to happen. And it's also, you may see a high school dropout who launches the next Facebook. It's possible, considering where high schools are headed these days. But, I do want to emphasize that it's, at some point there has to be a floor where students are, focus on the fundamentals and the foundations first and foremost. But, ultimately, I think independent schools are going to be defined by their ability to create by preparing students to create the future, and what's in store, as opposed to just, being able to study what's happening or what has happened.
No, I'm pretty sure the way you are delivering these programs, student will have a reason to stay intact and not drop out. Because I think they drop out because when the curriculum or the content is not fulfilling, or their need for learning, or it's not helping them in the journey. So I'm pretty sure that's the story that's happening with schools who are not keeping up with the change. So I definitely appreciate that. And one thing that always I want to ask, a lot of school leaders always try to, they have want to live in the present and the future at the same time. So how do you see this entrepreneurship, innovation, and robotics in general? How does that program is going to evolve in your school over 5 years? Because you have to predict and prepare to keep up. So what kind of prediction do you have?
Again, I think that students are, there's going to be continual integration. There's going to be continual dissolving of boundaries between disciplines, and students are going to be able to connect the dots with what they're studying in across the spectrum, and produce something that's really an impressive output to be judged by whoever, it's competitions, colleges, etc. But more than that, they're going to be able to integrate all these parts of their academic life that were at one point sort of distinct and separate, and now they're able to link them all together. And I think that's such a powerful way for students to learn and be successful.
It makes absolute sense. Though I think I would love to know how that unfolds with time. But yeah, absolutely. If they're feeling that comfort zone, I think, and able to come up with bizarre ideas and not feeling put down by others, or by, rejecting. Because honestly, when you have this kind of zone, it has to be and or rather than but and if. And how do you develop that culture? And also among the other school educators, I remember when I was in school, so it was so academically inclined that anytime we were trying to do something else, my math teacher used to in a way pin me down, like, you're wasting your time, or you're not focusing on what really matters, which is math. And I was a great student, but I used to feel that, in a way, if I have to choose between A and B, and why can't I do both? And
why can't you do both, right? And
why can't both teachers work in harmony with that? Why do they have to see themselves as competition? So how does that happen in your school? How does that, because again, student time is limited. So how does that work out?
Well, when students have a lot of interest, time is still limited. We're still limited by a schedule. And if students have a lot of, they do have to pare it down based on their capacity. I mean, a student can't take everything. Mm-hmm. But, I think that with the convergence of disciplines, they are able to, we have advanced science research and advanced humanities research where they're able to combine their interests in several different parts of academics, and I think that satisfies a very critical need with students who have so many interests.
Perfect. So this has been fantastic, Bill. Anything that you want to give a piece of advice for another school leader who's right now thinking of creating that kind of culture or innovation lab? What would you be advising to them?
Sure. I think that it's easy to get overwhelmed, and it's easy to get lost in all of the headlines and some of the research that's coming out and all of the excitement around it. But we're all in the same boat, and I am confident that the education sector will be stronger because of it.
Love that. Love that advice. I think that's really important to hear it out loud. So thank you so much, Bill, for your time. This has been fantastic, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
It's a pleasure speaking with you, Avinash. Thanks for having me on the podcast.